All right, listen, 2 Corinthians chapter 11, turn there if you would. 2 Corinthians 11. I've entitled this, Looking Back. Looking Back. 2 Corinthians 11, it's verses 32 and 33. Now, we could be looking back, and that's what we're going to do tonight, but we can also be looking forward. Listen, tomorrow, I plan to go to Office Max or, I don't walk into Target. What's the name of that other place? Hobby Lobby, Home Depot maybe. And I'm going to get these little colored buttons, stickers, and I'm going to stick them on here. So looking forward. We hope to play this next week. We hope. It can't be that hard. It's a piano. So we'll incorporate that. The vinyl. The vinyl has been all peeled. I finished it up yesterday. But it needs transfer tape and transferring and stickering on. And then assembly. That's going on. Oh, I have the tapes, and I'm going to take them over to your house tomorrow and see if you can dub a half a dozen of them. They were mailed out to me. We're doing it all the old way, and they originally wanted us to do this Spanish stuff in a closet on a phone and whatever, but anyway, the COVID business kind of ended for that nonsense, so we went into the studio. That'll be going forward. Trying to think of what else is going. The stuff from Mexico, an instrument here, more signs. What else is going on? Oh yeah, that's going on. Now I called those people several times. Then I spoke to her directly. Yes.
I got an email yesterday.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. It's an email yesterday. I asked her to fax me a price schedule. I've been trying to. It won't. Your machine won't take it. So then she said, I went next door to the UPS store and had them do it. It seems like the more modern they are, they can't handle a fax machine. And I told her, I said, we get faxes all day long, every day. If it's a small little outfit or whatever, I get a fax. If it comes in from the big giant house, there are people that don't even know how to fax today. There are people literally that do not know how to fax. And then I called for some guts for pepper and salt shakers, and they said, well, we haven't faxed in 10 years. So they're going to mail me the stuff in the mail. I got something in my post office box the other day, believe it or not, from Keithley. They decided to mail it to me. They couldn't handle it. So they mailed me the new PO for the year.
I just found out that we can actually fax from our email.
Say that again?
I see we can fax from our email.
Fax from email. Whatever that means. That sounds like a positive.
It's not even from a machine, it's the same.
It's not even from a machine. You can fax.
You can send it back to your machine, your fax machine, through email.
By the way, when was facsimile invented?
1850s, 1860.
Is that a true statement?
Yes.
1850s, 1860. A fax?
Yep.
Is that a true statement?
The
Yeah, he says it's a
the
true
government
statement.
had it. It was their secret thing.
No, I agree with you. I think I read that.
John B. Wells says it too.
That was around since 1850s, 1860s.
Yeah.
Faxing. I don't know. When was the phone developed?
Before that.
Before that? Well,
You just modulate some magnetic signals across the wire.
when was the television invented? And then, yeah, I think I brought it up here. You know what, happens is I say it here, you do have a memory, you do remember what I say. That was, I think the valves were invented in the 1920s. It took about 20 years for it to, 25 to 30 years to
Wasn't it
catch on.
1922 though? Or
Pardon, say that again?
1922?
Well, you could be right. It was in the 1920s. Television was invented. When was radio invented? Oh, I don't know. My dad heard it on a crystal set in 1918. He said he was in a barn and they had a crystal set up. And he said, here, listen to this. And he got on as a kid and he couldn't believe it. That you could hear a voice, or maybe they were even playing music over it on a crystal set.
I misspoke. Telegraph was before the fax machine.
Telegraph was before the fax, but I think the fax machine, it was pretty early.
Yeah.
And I think I heard that on Paul Harvey. There's a lot of interesting facts here. Facts. Anyway, that's going on. So the fax came in with the price schedule for the RTA buses. We hope to be an east side, west side. It's try to get a route running on the east side of town and a route running on the west side of town. So it's going to be a billboard. We plan to do the whole bus. So we're going to examine that and consider it, do the whole bus. And it's going to be going all over town. It'll be a traveling billboard. Is that going to be cool? And we're going to do the ones that are not confusing, not a lot of, the moment you see it, man, you know it. And we haven't experienced the cancel culture yet on it, because what's the main reason why we haven't experienced any of that pushback for us from progressives? Our what is just as what as everybody else's.
Money.
It is just as what?
Green.
Our money's just as green as the next guy. And a young fella taught me that at the IX Center. Because there was a debate saying whether or not we're going to be able to do this and that and the other. And this kid came up to me and he said, they'll do it. Your money's just as green as the next guy. And he was right. Anyway, looking back, we have 13 points. And to say how we got here, I don't know. But we did. We have been operating for 25 years. At this point in Paul's life, AD 60, how long was Paul in the ministry? Anybody know? I'm not talking about when he was saved, when he was in the ministry. No, he got saved about, it's about 35, I almost said 1935, 35 AD.
You said the ministry, I meant his entire life he was in religion, right?
Well, being saved, he was busy day one. Now listen, I've known people, they get saved, the day they got saved, they were street preaching, passing off tracts downtown Cleveland. They didn't last. I know personally somebody that got saved, witnessed within, if it's not the same day, within a week. And they didn't last. It's a I thought maybe it's a 7-year thing. 7 years and it's like a shooting star and they burn out. Is what I've heard a statistic. How long was he kind of getting ready before he's sent out? Anybody know? You know what? I better check to make sure I know. How many years do you think?
14.
I think it's 10 years. I think it's 10 years even. Now, hold on, I'm almost there, and we will see. It is AD 45. That's Acts 13. When the first missionaries are sent out, and we say that would be when it begins. And so for 45, this one is AD 60. So that's 15 years have gone by, but it's 25 years since he's been saved. He's saved in 35. He is trained and getting kind of knocked around and finding his place and so on for 10 years. Probably God's setting him up and testing him, getting him ready. And then in 10 years, that's in 45 AD, he is sent out. And now we're at 60 AD. So the idea is our first point is the past. He's looking into the past. There isn't anything wrong with looking into the past to analyze things. Father, bless now our preaching tonight. May it be fruitful that we would gain something, not just information, something that we could use in our everyday life. In Christ's name, amen. So we look at our past, and we can analyze where we've been, where we are right now, and where we anticipate going into the future. Right? So he's looking 25 years past is when he is in Damascus. The governor of Aretas, the king, kept the city of the Damascenes, like saying Bedfordinians, with a garrison, desirous to apprehend me. Through a window in a basket was I let down by the wall and escaped his hands. Now, that's pretty archaic. That's pretty adventurous. And there is no story like it. I was telling Nathan today that I had a book of short stories. And in this book of short stories, I don't even know whatever happened to the book. I wonder if it was in Grandma's pile of books. It's a bunch of short stories. Most of them are like horror stories. And I remember specifically only two in them. And I told him about this one story about these stamps that somebody had purchased at an antique store. They bought these stamps, and he acquires these stamps, and they're stamps. Where are the stamps from? Anybody want to guess? No place that no one ever heard of. It isn't heaven. It isn't Paducah. Is there a Paducahville? I told him it was from Paducah. Is there a Paducahville? There is a Paducahville. I think there's Paducahville. I think it's in Indiana. I think. When you're watching the news and you're watching the weather report, is it Paducah or Paducahville?
Paducahville, I think it's Indiana.
I think it's Paducahville. It's on the map. They show it Paducahville. I don't know if they do that on purpose or if it's a joke. I don't know. Anyway, this guy gets these stamps, and it's a fantasy. He gets these stamps. He doesn't know what to do with them. And he's a stamp collector. He's got these antiques, and he makes out a letter, and he decides to use the stamps. He takes the smallest, what he figures is the smallest amount of money for the stamp, assuming like a first-class stamp, and he sticks it on the envelope. What happens to the envelope? Anybody guess? If you were a story writer and you're making this up, what happens to the envelope? It's the coolest story. Well, I read it as a kid. I probably was 13 or 14. What happened to the envelope? Anybody want to guess? It takes off. It just all of a sudden flies away. He said, what is this? So he takes the next denomination higher and he puts it on a box. It takes off. And so on. The whole thing, it goes, there's an end to it. I told Nathan, I'd like to make a movie about this. If there's some clever ideas. What's that thing about Democrats in a book? I couldn't remember.
A reason to vote for Democrats.
Oh, the reasons, all the reasons to vote for Democrats. I couldn't come up with that. I knew it was Democrats, questions asked to give me all the reasons. A book is fairly thick. And give me all the reasons to vote for Democrats. So what is the book? It's all blank. There's a track like that. You see, that cleverness is all the verses in an NIV that have been removed. Anyway, it's a track about it or that are not. It's missing in the King James. But anyway, you open up the track and it's blank. It's because these are all removed. I forget how it goes. It's probably up in our ministry thing to start. So we have these things to start up there. And I eventually want to get a display case in here. I have every missionary card that we ever had here. I want to display that, our future ministries, the 1611. We're not just going to get the one box. I want to get a display case, a real one, a real nice one. And they are for sale, and we'll be looking for it anyway. But there's the past, so we can look at our past and see where we have been. And see what we have done in the past that we're still doing in the present, and what we want to do in the future, what we could add, and what we would not want to do. What's one thing that we've done in the past that we do not want to do in the future? Now, it may be something that I don't agree with you on, that's okay, but what is it we've done in the past that we don't want to do in the future? Anything? The church. We don't want to build another building. Anybody else? I know there's been now most of these people aren't here anymore, but we don't want to be in the IX Center again. Now, we got rid of the booth. By the way, Tammy, it was your booth, and I dusted it. It's gone. You and Missy's booth is bye-bye. Now, I kept some things out of the booth. And up in the attic, in that attic up there, there's a ton of stuff for the booth that we could pull down and still use that was in the booth, that's not going to be in that booth. But is the IX Center bankrupt, or are they no longer operating? I know there's COVID. They're done. By the way, the shows that we were in, the two shows we were in, it's the largest show of its kind. If it's not in the world, it's the largest show of its kind in the country. And we got a lot of tracks out. So we can look at the past. And Paul is looking at the past here of all the things that occurred to him, or I should say not all, a certain series of events that occurred in his life that would either put him in the ministry or put him out. What I just read, those two verses. Put him in the ministry, enhance it, or put him out. Nobody wants to comment. Are we all here? Well, what would have happened if these guys were successful? It would have put them out. And the devil, now we could say the devil doesn't know the future. But man, sometimes I wonder. By the way, how does the devil know the future? He does know the future.
He lives in eternity.
He's been reading his Bible. Now, I was debating this with the wife the other day. We were in the car, and how does he know the future? He knows the future by this book. But the devil wants to know which way the Lord is coming. There's two roads into Jerusalem, two roads. And there's a Y in the road, and he wants to be ready and waiting when the Lord comes back. I mean, this is what, folks, you're not going to be taught this in your wimpy church. There's two ways in. And what does the devil do to try to figure out which way he's coming?
Wait, it's right here.
Yes, ma'am. That girl, now see, that girl has got a memory. You probably learned that over at the BB, no? Or here. Well, I learned it over there, where you could have been learning it.
What was it?
Same place. He looketh in the liver. I learned that over there. So I don't want to discredit him. He taught me that. He looketh in the liver.
What's the liver?
Well, it's a verse. It's in the Bible. He looketh in the liver. Well, like a soothsayer or a seance, a Ouija board. Yes, sir.
Yes, the Muslims put up a bunch of graveyards on the east side of the temple.
Say that again.
Yes, the Muslims built a bunch of graveyards in the east side of the temple.
I saw a special on that.
Yeah.
Graveyards there. Now, I don't know how far this went back. It could have been before I was saved, and it was a Jew doing the tour. They may not have shown the graveyards, but the graveyards are there. And he said, filled with machine gun nests. I thought it was funny that it's machine guns everywhere. There's machine gun nests there. They're waiting for him. And because, and what about the East Gate? What book is that? The East Gate. He finally leaves the temple. It says he goes to the threshold, he goes here, and then he leaves through the East Gate. So the assumption is the Lord's coming through the East Gate. In what book do you find that in? No, I could be wrong. It could be Ezekiel. I think it's Ezekiel. That's what I think it is. But it's filled with machine gun nests. And the Jewish, I would assume he was Jewish, tour guide, he laughs. And he says, and they think that they're going to stop the Lord. They're going to stop God from coming in here. And he's laughing about it. Nothing's going to stop him. It's all going to be fulfilled. So I argued with the wife, not that she was arguing back, I was trying to give a reason. How could the devil know what we are going to do or could have done 25 years ago in advance? And maybe he could look in the liver. There is a verse, you can Google it. He looketh in the liver. That's what the Antichrist does. He looketh in the liver. I mean, American Indians, they're all demonic. It's all demonic. It's all demons, man. All that stuff. But he looketh in the liver. So there's the past. He looks at the past, and he sees this narrow escape. And he tells, our second point, and he tells the place in which it occurred. It occurs in Damascus. It occurs in this place called Damascus. Now he is, let's see, in Acts. Let me get there. In Acts, and desired of him letters to Damascus. He's heading towards Damascus to do the Christians in. He's heading there. And so he's on the way. This is the place where his beginnings, this is the, we'll say the planting, the sprouting of the seeds in his life where he gets saved. Lord, what will thou have me to do? He's struck blind. He is, I always say he was knocked off his donkey. There's no indication he was riding a donkey. He was knocked to the ground. Others saw the light but heard no voice. Only Paul heard the voice. And then when he got up, he couldn't see. And they led him by the hand into Damascus. He waited there certain days. He then is praying. He gets baptized, and he gets busy right away. So that is the place. I know people say, boy, you ought to know exactly where and when and how you got saved. Well, when it all happened for me, I didn't have some Baptist preacher telling me that I need to know that. It just happened. I mean, I know you're tired. You were gallivanting. And I had the privilege of sleeping today. And I went out, like standing up sleeping. And I went right out. I was crashed. And then, so I made all the kids lay down. They all fell asleep. The place. How long was he in Damascus? That's the period.
2 years?
3 years. And where do we get that from? Now, we can debate this stuff. If you go to Galatians, I think it's Galatians. Go to Galatians, just a page over. Neither went I up to Jerusalem to them which were apostles before me, but I went into Arabia and returned again unto Damascus. And then after 3 years I went up to Jerusalem to see Peter and abode with him 15 days. Now, I've read up on it. There's people that debate that. They say that Paul was 3 years in the desert of Arabia, and he was being hand-trained by Jesus. Now, that's that he was teaching him. Now, that's what I teach and preach. Is that true? I don't know. These preachers debate that, of what is factual. And now, one I had read, I think it's in Peter S. Ruckman's book, that I think he says that's not true, in skimming just briefly. But he spends 3 years there. It just means he's there for 3 years. That he's not getting hand trained. I've heard both sides of the story. And I don't know what he personally believes, but as I was skimming through the book, I think 3 years is a legitimate amount of time. By the way, what is 3 years in the Bible, and what is a man to do for 3 years in the Bible? And that is, how long are these Bible institutes? How long of a program? I think that's where they get it from. Anybody know how long the Bible program is? No one knows? After I just said that? Big stab at it. 3 years. It's all 3 years. It took me 4 years because I started half quarters. And finally the doc said to me, at my age, I'm over 40. He said, what are you going to be here forever? And so then I decided to go full time. It was not easy, man. To work full time, do everything full time, then go to the school full time. I didn't fall asleep wake up until Thursday. And I just went through the routine again. It was one big routine. So the period is 3 years. 3 years. And there is, our fourth point is the person that's after him. There's a person that wants to shut Paul down. And it says there in the verse, in Damascus, the governor under Aretas, the king, it is the governor, whoever that governor is. Now you may find and look historically who is the one that was in charge. I would assume this is the type of devil. It's demonic. And by the way, who's requesting to get Paul? They want to get this guy, Paul.
The Jews?
The Jews want it. Now, why would the governor go along with the Jews?
Keep them quiet.
To keep them quiet.
They're taxpayers.
They're taxpayers. Let's keep them quiet. Let's keep peace in the province. And if any of these rumblings get back to who plays Caesar in the movies? And not Cleopatra. Who plays these parts? I can't think of an actress. If any of them get back to Richard Harrison or whoever these actors are, there's going to be some rumblings. If it gets back to Caesar, what's going to happen to the governor?
Off with his head.
Off with his head, political suicide. He's going to lose his job. He's going to be sent to some remote area where nobody else wants to go.
He's Cleveland.
He ends up in Cleveland. And he's doing the political smart move. He doesn't want these rumblings. So he's going to listen to these Jews. So we got to get this Paul character out of the way. Aside from that, who wants to get him out? This governor, the person that wants to get you out and who's looked in the liver, and that is the devil. He wants to get every Christian out of the way, out of action, doesn't want any of this going on. So I thought about over the years when I was working over there, well, how can I serve the Lord? How can I serve the Lord? I'm an engraver. So I thought, well, hey, I could engrave badges. I think I brought this. I know that Tammy has the sample. I can engrave badges. Hey, I could make some rubber stamps. I could make some signs. Not that I make them, Buster's make them. Hitting the button. And I said, boy, we could put this to use. So when you think about, oh, I didn't bring this up. Route 250 runs north-south or east-west?
North-south.
North-south. Where does it end up at?
Good question.
No, up north. Where does it end up north?
The lake.
Where at the lake? Anybody know?
North Homestead?
No, if you're going to go fishing or if you're going to go to the amusement park, you say, well, I don't go that way to the amusement park. Where does it end up at? What's that city called? It ends up at Sandusky. what runs east-west?
Route 6.
Yeah, I could say Route 6. If Brother Welsh is here, he knows all these route numbers.
252.
No. That's much further. That's on this side of Elyria. It's Route 6 or Route 20. I think you're right. It's 20 or 6.
Yeah.
Both of them run east-west. 250 runs north-south, and 250 can only run so far north-south because it ends. You'll go in the lake. But Route 6 or Route 20 runs from New York, all the way to the west coast. Route 42, which is Pearl Road, goes from Cleveland diagonal into Cincinnati, and he would say, yeah, and it goes all the way to Mexico. Now, I don't know that for a fact, but I'm just saying diagonally you can go all the way. These roads are built for reasons, and they're there for reasons. These pikes and turnpikes are there for reasons. So anybody know what is at Route 6, which runs this way, assuming that's dead north, which it is, that's north there. Here's Route 6 and here's 250. Anybody know what's at that intersection? You've been fishing with me a lot of times up there. Anybody know what's up there? Landscapers? Nope. That's a good guess. It is not a tree. By the way, if you go over here to this, I don't know what the road is. I told Nathan about it, where West Glendale is, and the one that runs parallel to the railroad tracks on this side. The second house in, look at, there's a catalpa tree there. And that limb has grown there probably for 50 years. It goes like this, arches over, it comes all the way down the ground, touches the ground, comes back up again, and they park a car under there. It's like a tunnel. How long will it take to destroy that? 30 minutes? 30 seconds by a landscaper who doesn't have a brain in their head. There's a white oak over on Route 21 like that in Brecksville. A white oak, it comes way down, it touches the ground, and comes back up a limb. Probably took 100 years to grow that. And it takes one owner to come in there and ruin it. So no one knows what's at Route 6 and 250. That's okay. Nope. A hedge and bushes. And anybody know what it spells? It spells out Sandusky. That's Route 6 and 250. Right there at that intersection. All right? It spells out Sandusky. Well, who's to say you can't do that in landscaping? Get your mind going. Man, my mind is going on making a movie about these stamps. Oh, my dear. These stamps and how this thing goes, and somehow incorporate Jesus into this. But you spelled out Sandusky. There's a guy over here on Columbus Road that spells out Jesus in his front yard with rocks. Anybody ever see that? You've seen that? He spells Jesus out with rocks over there. What color is he? He's black. He loves Jesus. It spells Jesus out. It's been there for years. 4 years. You see that you think you can't serve the Lord. Man, the Lord can use you. And what can I do with these rocks? What can I do with Moses and his rod? What can I do with this rod? There's all kinds of stuff that you can do that you just need to let the Lord use your imagination and then go for it. So there is the past, the place, the period, 3 years. I think that's a legitimate amount of time. I mean, he was steadfastly marching forward, and the person that was after him is the governor. And the power he had a lot of power. King kept the city of the Damascenes, it says, with a garrison. Folks, this isn't just a platoon. This is a garrison of soldiers. So there's a certain amount of power there to shut you down. They don't want you operating. So there is a power there. Folks, whenever we witness, now not lately, But I got an entire Chick tract. I called Jack Chick. I got it in writing when he was still alive, permission to print it in the paper. He said, don't worry, there's no charge. You have our written permission to publish it. We published it in the local paper, the whole tract. People called upbeat, and we had people call who were angry about that. But they did call. There's a certain power that wants to put you and I out of business. Never underestimate that. I mean, none of that had, listen, the Holy Spirit doesn't have that in there to fill up some space. This is part of the story. There's a power there. And why do they want to, give me the good P word, you can't find it in those two verses. What is it that they want to stop, the P word? What would be the next logical point? Huh? They want the preaching to stop. They want Paul to shut up. What's going to happen to shut this guy up? I remember it was the crazy man from Dayton area, not Kettering. The crazy man from Cincinnati, he would scream. He screamed like a girl. He screamed in church just like a girl, and the whole rest of the week he had, what did he have for the rest of the week? What did he have? What do we call that? He had laryngitis. I was sitting there in the pew, and I'm thinking, he had laryngitis, he was whispering, and I thought, you want to know what I thought? Serves you right. That's what I thought. He had laryngitis, he screamed. But he had a good illustration. He said, he said this, and now you can agree with him, or you don't have to agree with him. He said, man, I'm going to do everything to keep you quiet. The devil's trying to keep you quiet. He said, if I can't keep you quiet and you won't shut up, I'm going to push you in. Do you remember that? I'm going to push you in all the way. When I'll push you in, go ahead, get up on top of the roof and start screaming. You know, push him in all the way and make a fool of yourself. Now, you can agree with that or disagree. Is that what the devil does? I don't know about that one. But that was a good illustration that he gave about being balanced. I think he was trying to tell to be balanced. Number 7 here, verse 32. Desirous to apprehend me. So there was a purpose to go after Paul. If we can't issue a court order, we can't get the lawyer after you, we can't get the Jewish Women's Committee after you, we can't get you excommunicated from the synagogue, we can't do this, no, we're going to apprehend you. The desire here. The purpose of all this was to shut Paul down. But he makes a way, and he wants to, we say it with cowboys and Indians, we're going to head them off at the what?
Past.
The past. There is a pass that Paul can get through to escape. Now, who would think that this would be the pass? You got the devil after you. You got the politicians are after you. You got the whole Jewish community after you. And he makes this little tiny pass of escape. Almost like the Scarlet Pimpernel trying to get out of, what's the capital? Of Paris. You know, because they were lopping everybody's head off, and he has to sneak out of here. He portrays himself as an old hag, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And to get out, and what does he claim that he has in the wagon? The plague.
Yeah.
They're going to go in there. Oh, I wouldn't touch that. It's my grandson. He's got the plague. You know, oh, like this. And he lets them through. There's a small little passageway to get through this pass, and it is in verse 33, and through a window, this little pass. So he threw open the shutters and threw back the sash, right? And there he was. He throws open the window. His friends do. There's this pass. But we need not only the window, but what else do we need?
Basket.
We need the basket. God will provide. He knows it's a window, and that's a long jump going down. He knows that we need this basket.
With a red rope.
With a, yeah, well, that would have been cool. That would be in the movie. It's not in the story with the red rope.
It would fit with Rahab the harlot.
So, but that's not the story. The past, the providing, He will provide what you and I need. What you and I need. I wanted to cut this movie. I wanted to make a movie. What is it when you watch these movies on this dumb phone? What's that called? You watch these movies, people, YouTube. And I told my daughter, because her kids are doing this, what was the game they're playing? Their thumbs are just going like crazy. And the prince, or the king's, the queen's son is against it also. What's the game? Fortnite. Now, was it an American? Who invented it? Logically, who invented it? Without knowing who invented it. It may not be the inventor. The Brits! Hey, laddie, the Brits. I know that's an Irish accent, but the Brits did. And my title for my YouTube was how I defeated, how I got off of Fortnite in a fortnight. Well, I think that's clever. I know you're laughing. I think that's how I got off Fortnite in a fortnight. How long is a fortnight?
2 weeks.
It's 2 weeks' time. And so I came up with a dozen things of, one was I sucked on a pacifier. I mean, just there's a whole list of things, and you would make this movie about these kids getting off of Fortnite. And my daughter was well on board with it. It never happened. I mean, I can't do everything. I mean, okay, come on, let's go. I mean, you got to have a little excitement here. Get busy about it. I didn't want to do everything for these people. And what did she say about YouTube? There are some people that watch YouTube, and then there are some people that what?
Watch it.
Make it. Some people make the YouTube while almost everybody else watches YouTube. And most everybody in this world are only spectators. Meaning get up and get going.
It's the marketplace of ideas right now.
It's a marketplace of ideas. Well, how to do it? Whatever you need to get busy for Jesus, in this case, for Paul to escape, God provided. God provided. He does his part, we must do our part. What could Paul have said? There's the basket there. Well, what would have been wrong with the basket?
Too small.
Too small. Give me a good one. Give me another one. Too small.
Too big, won't fit through the window.
Too big, won't fit through the window. Give me another. It's too weak. The rope wasn't strong. On and on it goes. On and on the excuses go. Folks, this is the story of most people's lives. On and on the excuses go.
Afraid of heights.
I'm afraid of heights. On and on it goes.
I'm afraid of the ground.
On and on it goes. It never ends. But he provides this window, and he provides this basket, and he says that he was let down. Now, folks, this isn't an automatic winch, not wench, a winch where he hits the button, everything's automated. So he's got helpers. He's got, let's just help it along. He's got his partners. He's got partners to help him. And so I told Joe about the tapes. They're not tapes. What are they? What would you call those? The Frisbee. A CD. See, I don't even call them CDs. I call them tapes. And so he's going to take the CDs. I'm not dubbing them, he's dubbing them. These are partners. See? We have our partners in this. If you're going to go and do everything, folks, it ain't going to happen. It isn't going to happen. Now, some professions, it takes one guy to do it. It takes one guy to do it. And others, man, you need help, the partners. And it says that he escaped, as let down by the law, and escaped his hands. So God, he had divine protection. He made sure that the sentries, if you want to see the dumbest Germans on the planet, watch combat. Just watch combat. Those are human interest stories, by the way. Watch combat, that the one sentry's walking this way, the other's walking this way, and right down between them, Paul is lowered down in between them, and they never see him. But Paul manages to escape. He is protected. He has this divine protection. What stopped while all this was going on? What was Paul doing? Why were they after him? Because he was doing what?
God's will.
The P word. The preaching stopped. Well, I'm called to preach, man. I'm called to preach. Well, if he got down there at the bottom of the wall, or on the way down, started yodeling, he got at the bottom of the wall and pulled out his Bible, and thus saith it, and started preaching, the preaching stopped. Right? If it did, I mean, Paul's not too smart. Just because the preaching stops for a while is not necessarily a bad thing. Meaning, to get from 25 years ago to this point, there's got to be intervals in there where you and I have to be patient. The patience for this to progress. In other words, there's, while we're marching, what do? We take what? What do you want? How many do you want to take? You're marching along. And the sergeant says, take what? Not a gun. You're worn out, lady. No. Yeah. Take 10. No, take 5. It's time to take 5. And sit down. The wife wants to take a gun. You take 5. In Sonny's case, he wants to take 10. It's time to take 10. So the saying is, take 5. You take 5. You take a break. There is a time in which it's okay to take a break. And Paul at that time had to take a break. He took a break for 3 years. He knew what he's doing. And there it's okay to take a break. So we take a break. Listen, we've got somebody that wants to take those videos that you make. It's not your calling to take them. Your calling is to make the videos. He wants it to be his calling to take those videos and put music to it. And so Rose was over at the house, she was here, and she goes, what is that, Moonlight Sonata? Moonlight Sonata. I said, well, you got to arrange the music in the right way, is when you're demolishing, ripping out all the landscape, that's the sad part, so you put sad music to it. Then when the new stuff comes in, it's a little more upbeat, and then when you're building it, it's more upbeat. When it's finished, it's real happy music. Right? But I haven't seen that. You need to arrange it like that. In other words, we have different skills to produce it. We're going to take those videos of yours, put music to it, and then display it online. Well, let's see what happens to it. See what happens to it. So there is the patience. The preaching stop. There can be lulls, a time in which stop, just like in any business, and they say, where have we been? Where are we now? And where do we want to end up? And by the way, will the business go on? You can say that about a church or a business. What happens to most businesses? It's over, it's done. When the owner dies, it's over, done. The patience.
Just bought by a corporation.
And through a window in a basket was I let down by the wall and escaped his hands. And so there is a master, and our last point is the plan. We're done for tonight. This, verses 32 and 33, took place over a period of 3 years. It's one chapter in Paul's life. One chapter. For all those that I know, personally know, that have started churches in storefronts. They started halfway houses. They start a ministry. What happens? What happens to it? Anybody know what happens?
Either they flourish or they fall.
Either, you're right, either it flourishes, but in most cases, it crumbles. They didn't get the right help. They didn't have the fortitude to go on. Whatever, it generally crumbles. Who got stoned to death? What's his name? The first, Stephen. His ministry didn't last too long, now did it? But he did finish it. He did finish it. Let's march on. It's okay to look back, to see where we've been, where we are now, and where we hope to be later. It's okay to do that. And this story that he tells is only one chapter of his book. Shake hands before leaving.